This will be more of a ground rules heavy intro, and I would also like to take this time to mention that there's like a single minor spoiler for a single line from a single character in Frieren Season 2. So with that out of the way, I just have to say I love Frieren. I absolutely love the story that the manga tells and how the anime enhances it. And I feel like almost everyone who talks about the demons of Frieren online has rocks for brains. There are two distinct groups that are the loudest regarding this matter. The alt-right that is hijacking Frieren to affirm their racism by saying, the author is actually telling us that immigrants are animals in human skin and that they are here to deceive us and kill our kids. I better go join ICE now. And the other group are pretentious leftoids who cannot conceive of a reality where every single thing in fiction does not have an analogy in the real world, and genuinely think that the author is telling us to go hold hands with Israel and go bomb Palestine to the ground with them together. Now, every piece of art that was ever created and that ever will be created is political. It is the very nature of art. Art will always say something about the human condition. Now, genocide is inexcusable and a shame upon our species that we will never be able to truly repent from. Anyone who says otherwise is a deplorable human being, and anyone who adds the "but" behind it is even fucking worse. This video is not apologetics of genocide. In this video, I intend to talk about an interpretation of the humanity-demon conflict of Frieren that I myself find to be the most fitting for the story that is being told. I ask you to withhold any prior interpretation, and for the sake of this video, assume that this conflict fundamentally cannot be judged the same way we judge conflict in our own world. Frieren does something with demons that I would expect sci-fi to tackle way more often, and that is the horror of an alien mind, because that's what the real crux of the human-demon conflict is. When we try to discuss the conflict itself, we inevitably view it through an anthropocentric lens, since that is the only experience we have and that we can truly hope to, well, experience. In what world should we expect that intelligence, morality, and consciousness are phenomena that are universally compatible between species? Why should we assume that what we experience as intelligent thought or a moral quandary would even register as something comprehensible to a being that evolved independent of our own species and vice versa? I keep using the words intelligence, morality, consciousness, but those are still from what we know fundamentally human experiences that we perceive through our own lived experiences. It is truly hard to put to words an argument for a lack of something that creates humans human. I don't think it is truly possible, and as much as I want to see the demon conflict in Frieren through this lens, I'm only utilizing this interpretation that is still skewed by my human nature. And because of that, I will never be able to truly experience the sensation, the emotion, the weight of this impenetrable barrier between species. That is, mind you, very well not outside of the realm of possibility in our own real world. Is it not scary to imagine a reality, a world, that blessed at minimum two species of sentient and complex thought, one of them being us, humans, but at the same time cursed to never even be able to approach any form of understanding? Can we even begin to imagine the horror of nothing? The absence of what we see as the foundations of being alive? And to be clear, I'm talking about humanity, but I'm also kind of clumping dwarves and elves into this too. Dwarves are basically just humans who live longer, and elves are basically humans who got turned into edgy-reddit teenagers who see emotion as unnecessary due to their incomprehensibly long lifespan. Yet they all share the human experience. The story just uses lifespan to explore themes of being alive and the emotions we carry. So, turns out I actually hallucinated this part. I could swear I have a memory of a visual of like a map being burned down while someone talks about how much of humanity died in the war with demons. But the only actual mention of the damage I could find is chapter 98 of the manga in the Golden Land arc, so if you want to stay spoiler free, there will be a timestamp to skip to. So humanity's sphere of influence was reduced to a third, which I actually saw some people online interpret as 2/3 of humanity dying. But as far as we know, that's just speculation. Humanity lost 30% of its population in a conflict that was started as an attempt to understand humanity by the Demon King. And after this tragic event, demons were reduced to what we can only imagine as groups of stragglers and pockets of resistance that are to be eliminated on sight by humanity. And the story tells us, by the demon's own words, how curious it is that they don't even need to kill and eat humans to survive. Yet they do. Yet they continue. Stupid, 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 stupid. I'm just a stupid LARPer chud. Just throw me into a wood chipper. Turns out I hallucinated another piece of information. I wrote this segment like this because I could have sworn we got this information from an exposition bit from Revolte later on. But no, it's from Frieren ragebaiting the Sword Demon. I genuinely do not know what's wrong with me. Our minds cannot accept this as a reason for such suffering in the world. We cannot fathom how an alien mind operates. We cannot fathom that this is for demons what we humans would call normal. And we see characters time and time again applying human perspective and experiences on beings that are not human, that are for all intents and purposes alien. Stark and Fern at the start of the Aura arc, Himmel and the villagers in the same arc's flashback. Everyone there has to face the reality that what they know, what they want the world to be, that all of this is utterly meaningless in the face of this conflict. And that is a truly grim prospect. And all of this brings me to a horrifying conclusion, a hypothetical, that something as despicable as genocide is also just a human experience. And does something as universal as condemning mass murder potentially fall apart when faced with the alien? That's why I said I would expect this to be more in the ballpark of sci-fi, but even there this universality of what we call thought and consciousness is prevalent there, for practical purposes of the story of course, but I find this a fascinating topic to face and think about. This is more of a serious video and I hope I'm managing to approach it tactfully, considering the context of the genocide of Palestinians that is currently going on. Our brain is a pattern recognition machine and I'm not surprised that engaging casually with Frieren could make someone feel repulsed. It is definitely the better alternative than the outright hijacking. I have no sympathies towards those people. But with the emphasis the story made on communicating that demons are a whole different species with different societal structures that we know barely anything about, and that they possess incompatible moral values, or what we as humans would perceive to be human values, I guess, I don't think that Frieren's demons stand on the foundations of political commentary, but on the grounds of fantasy demon killing being kinda cool, in combination with their lore modifying it into something that we do not encounter often in fiction. Now, this is basically just speculation, but still a necessary part of interpretation, but I do not think that the author's intent for writing Frieren was tackling contemporary and historical tragedies. I don't think it's hard to notice that the focus of the story of Frieren is love, friendship, living a life with a purpose, and finding a passion that can light your heart ablaze. It is about making the most out of the short time that we have here, sharing our lives with those we care most for. It is about tackling our past and improving for the sake of our own future and our own happiness, because there's always another day we may try. It talks about grief and what it means to move on. I'm not saying there is no place for politics. This story is about living a happy and fulfilling life. With how society operates, it very much is a political issue, as fucked up as that is. But Frieren is not One Piece. You could say both are fantasy, with similar messages about friendship, dreams, and passions, but only one stands on the foundation of commenting what it means to be free, and how fascism seeks to strip us of that freedom. What I mean to say is that the building blocks of Frieren do not seem to have been built upon similar thematic foundations to the likes of stories like One Piece, but all of this constitutes more of a meta approach to the story. Demons also serve a role as a narrative tool. From what we know about demon society is that they are highly individualistic creatures, working together only out of what we can assume is called pragmatism. Their society is stratified based on their status, which is derived from their competence as a magic caster. They are proud, self-serving, striving only for more power because that is what gives them more status. They are strong enough to get what they want when they want it, and that most likely constitutes a big part of their being, kind of a Sukuna-based life philosophy. And here's a political commentary for you. Doesn't that sound like what capitalism seeks to make out of people? Cold, pragmatic, unfeeling, benefit-chasing machines that do not stop because they do not know anything else. Isn't that what a life without passion is? This is the difference between Frieren herself and the demons. She is one of the strongest beings in her world. She could get anything anytime she wanted. There's nothing stopping her from achieving the status of the likes of Zeria if she just tried. But she doesn't. She's happy to travel with two godchildren of her closest friends, making memories. She is happy to help people in need. She is happy to collect silly little spells just because she finds it fun. She does magic because it is fun and because it is beautiful, not because it is a tool. The demons are a foil to Frieren. Demons are what Frieren would be if she wallowed in her apathy brought on by her immortality. Demons are Frieren stripped of everything that makes her smile. And I ask of you, if you experienced Frieren, if you truly experienced it, do you think the story and the author themselves would so blatantly flaunt alt-right racist ideals? Do you feel like what this story set out to do was telling us to kill all minorities? That the horrors of social Darwinism are cool and correct actually? If you experienced Frieren, is this what you felt? If you think about Frieren, do you believe that this is what is being said? The conclusion for this is hard to write, because I'm not sure what to say. Did I prove anything? Not at all. I have just gone on about the way I choose to look at and experience Frieren, fueled by my frustration of others looking at it a different way. A way I would consider being reductionary and being unfair to the brilliance of Frieren. The most I can hope to achieve is to get anyone who might be watching to listen to me and be gracious enough to engage with what I said and think about it, and hopefully at least be somewhat entertaining to listen to on top of it, even though this was not exactly the type of video to crack jokes in. If you have any thoughts, please feel free to share them in the comments below. Yes, I'm begging for engagement now. I'm just chasing the high of engaging in a discussion with people under my Dungeons and Dragons drama slop video. I would love to hear your thoughts, and I can assure you I'm reading all the comments, and if there is something to say, I will always reply. It's not like it takes much time with a channel of this size, though I will delete any comment that will even try to suggest genocide being justifiable. Now on to the actual outro segment. If you haven't watched Orb on the Movements of the Earth yet, you totally should. Mainly so you can be crashing out with me once it gets no nominations whatsoever on Anime of the Year. Also, as I predicted in my last video, I cracked and caught up on the Witch Hat Atelier manga. It was magnificent, and I highly recommend you giving it a read. If you enjoyed this, please consider leaving a like or subscribing. No pressure though, I'll be here for a while. I'll go play Slay the Princess now. Bye!